Welcome to yet another episode of Brand Talkies, a Kada BT show where we believe in uncovering the stories behind the brands you all love. I'm your host, Tamanna Chanana, and today we are back with another special guest. Since a lot of you have recently started talking to me about how you can convert your casual visitors on your website and get them on board as a subscribers. So we are going to talk about mastering CRO. All right, let me introduce Chris Longfellow. He's a seasonal professional renowned for his expertise in sales and marketing, consulting, cutting-edge website design, and e-commerce development, leading ventures to success. And he's a founder of We Take Flight. He serves as a launch agency and growth partner, specializing in working with startups and scale-ups through WordPress and Shopify design and development, CRO consulting, and a lot more. He has worked with both brand and agency side as well and has helped launch a number of businesses across a range of sectors. Chris has consistently demonstrated his ability to drive growth and success across different industries. I'm really glad we are having this conversation today. Welcome to the show, Chris, and thank you so much for accepting the invitation.
Thanks very much for having me and for such a wonderful introduction. That's great. I want to use that every time I speak anyway. It's a pleasure to be here. Really
Lovely. Awesome. Amazing. So let's get deeper into the entire conversation today. Let's start by having you tell us a bit about yourself and your path in the world of marketing.
Yeah, well, I started out my business journey at 19 years old when me and a couple of friends set up a music studio. We built up eventually it was 5 rehearsal rooms and a recording studio. So that was my dream as a child, really, to be a music producer. That we learned so much about business from running a business at 19 years old. All of a sudden we realized we don't have any customers. How do we get customers? So we had to quickly learn about marketing. Then I went into work for a high street clothing retailer here in the UK. That started out as a data entry level position with them, but they were a small, tight-knit team and they didn't have any marketing guidance within the business. And obviously I built up my own business before, so managed to find my way into becoming their one-man marketing department, which was everything from printing out in-store POS to working with the sales teams there, the in-house managers, and making sure that we're doing as much in-store as possible. We then also redesigned their e-commerce site years before Shopify was a thing. So we was bolting on to the existing stock management system. And yeah, that was a really interesting journey to be part of. Then I worked as a marketing manager at a property company, which was, again, completely different, but just applying those same skills. So that was a couple of brand side positions. And then I came sort of agency side, which is just where I completely found my feet and felt in my own skin for the first time. I was head of BD at a web and e-commerce agency, focusing a lot on sort of B2B and some quite complex e-com projects. And that's where I really, again, fell in love just with e-commerce. And then during COVID, I started freelancing and contracting and working within this wonderful ecosystem that is Shopify and all the amazing things that we can do with it that previously were such a challenge in just getting something to work, because it's a fantastic product in the sense that it is so accessible to get going with it, and then you can really start applying some of that thought and some of the really deep thinking around it. And then we've officially launched We Take Flight at the start of this year, start of 2024. So there's only 2 of us in the team at the moment. We're working with a small handful of clients at the minute, but we are really getting under the skin of the businesses. We are building and developing Shopify stores, but then continuing to work with those businesses to improve conversion rates. And as you said, Tamanna, just turning those casual viewers into avid fans and repeat buyers and avid subscribers.
That's an amazing roller coaster journey, to be honest.
Yeah, that is a journey, isn't it?
Trust me, it's amazing to know someone who's from an e-commerce domain, because this is the first time we are actually talking about that interest.
Yeah.
Just moving ahead. So ask you a couple of questions that are some fun elements around market or your journey as well. If you had to describe your career journey using only emojis, which ones would you?
I'd probably use, there's a roller coaster one, isn't there? I'd probably use the roller coaster one, which I think is going up, so that's a good thing. And I'd probably just throw a smiley face in there as well. I like to enjoy the journey, not the destination, as it comes. And you'll just, sometimes there's ups, sometimes there's downs, but you're constantly moving forward.
That's so true. But that really touched my soul. Now I think so I need to come out. What's the weirdest client request that you have ever gotten into and you had to politely decline to it? You're like, no, I can't do it.
Well, obviously obviously sort of early in my career, I was doing a lot of design work, and the constant thing was make the logo bigger, make it pop, those kind of things. We've all had those ones, but at the moment, the only things that we're declining is that we stick to our lane. We know what we do really well. We try to, we don't deal with any paid media, we don't deal with SEO, we don't deal with PPC. We deal with everything on site, which obviously has a tie-in with SEO, but yeah, we deal with everything on site. So design, development, and CRO services. That's where we sit really, really nicely.
Coming to the next question, if you were, what would be your superpower be, and how would you use it to help businesses?
It'd be I like this question. I love superhero films, so this was an easy one to answer. It'd be mind reading en masse. So I think Professor X had it absolutely nailed down in the X-Men films. He had his little cerebro machine, put the hat on, and could just read the entire world's minds, and then obviously would then use that to benefit businesses and to be able to give a better service to customers and find out what they need. A lot of what I do is everything is driven by helping people. I want to help, whether that's the businesses I'm working with, whether that's the customers, to buy the right thing for them. It all ties, and it's really nicely together. I've realized I'm not being very quick at the quick fire round.
Yeah, usually it goes longer than even the main conversation. Half of the time it happens because everyone loves to have fun.
Oh yeah, of course.
So I know that you love Legos. All right.
I do, yeah. Plenty of them behind me.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I thought that I'll ask you this another question as well, which is basically around what's the most ambitious Lego creation you have ever attempted, and did it turn out to be the way you planned it?
Well, probably my favorite one that we've done so far was the Home Alone house. So the house from the film Home Alone. We got it just before Christmas last year. I've got 2 young kids, so that my justification was every Christmas we're gonna, as part of the family tradition and part of the holidays, is we're gonna build the Home Alone house, which was amazing and a really good way of justifying buying the set to my wife. But I've recently completed this one, which is the set from Friends, the TV show, which is great. And yeah, the one that I really want is the next one on the list is The Office, the US Office, the set from that. So yeah, get me talking about Lego, we'll be here all day, honestly. I
think more than kids, now it's adults who have the kind of love for those, right?
Yeah, and Lego have done a fantastic job of making that part of the adult culture and making it almost an acceptable thing to do. I spent half of my 20s telling my mum I was too old for Lego, and now I tell her to keep it coming.
I'll definitely need to convince my partner as well now. All right. So the buzz round is over. Let's talk a bit about CRO things and how it has evolved so far. All right. So let's talk about what are some common mistakes businesses make while trying to optimize their conversion and how they can avoid it.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think CRO as a term is relatively quite new, but businesses have been doing this for years. It's just not had a name to it, I think. And the main thing for me with CRO is sometimes companies will try to think too much about the product and not too much about the benefits. And I think sometimes we need to focus on the buyer, on what they need to know. Let's not overwhelm people with too much information, but give the right little snippets of information and gentle nudges in the right direction. So if it's, and it depends on the product and what we're selling, but if it's, if we want to be increasing not just that conversion rates, but also the average order value, we can start looking at things like bundles or free delivery if you hit a certain criteria on there. And there's loads of tech that we can implement that helps us with this. But for me, a lot of CRO is really about the strategy. So it's as much about in the strategy and the thinking as it is in the doing and the tech behind it. I think obviously social proof always just needs to be top of the agenda, and I know we'll dive into that a little bit more as we get into it.
Sure. I have one quick question. Do you think free actually works in e-commerce?
Again, it's all about the strategy around freemium and how we're using it to then convert to being a paying customer.
One of the gigs that I've seen most of the e-com startups or companies that have been doing it, especially in the UK, they have been using it pretty well, right? So that's why I was a bit curious that what has been your experience around it.
Yeah, I've not done a lot with it myself, to be honest, on freemium. But again, you can see when it's working well. The challenge is with CRO and enticing buyers to buy from us is that we don't always want to just be giving away all the time. We've got to think about that CAC, your customer acquisition cost. If we're giving too much away on that first purchase and we're not doing anything to bring them back, then the balance is off. And also sometimes, some of the things that we do with CRO CRO as well is looking at the types of offers we can give people, because you might give 10% off to a buyer if they spend so much or if they have a certain bundle, but actually sometimes a free gift where the monetary value to you as a brand is far less, the perceived value is higher times to the buyer. So yeah, that's always an interesting one to test.
Amazing. I'm really curious about what are the successful strategies behind it. So in your experience, since you spoke a lot about different tactics, different tools, what are some key elements of any successful strategy?
With any CRO strategy, it has to be considered as a long-term long-term view. Sorry, it's not a short-term fix. It's very much a relative of SEO. They almost go hand in hand together in a way. The way that we work with it is we do a huge audit first, which is 320 points across the site. We see what's already on there, what's working, what's not, and then we start to build the strategy. So the temptation sometimes with conversion rate optimization is to throw everything at it all at once and to throw all these new tactics and new bits of tech aside and at consumers all at once. The challenge with that sometimes is you don't always see what's worked and what hasn't. So understanding sort of the value of the big levers that we call them on the site and what we're pulling is important. But then once we've made the initial big changes to a site, we then get into sort of A/B testing really small things. So you can actually quantitatively say that thing has worked better than that thing. So it might be, like I said earlier, the free gifts versus 10%. Just run that test. And also the thing to consider as well is the time of the tests. So, Amazon can test something within 30 minutes because they've got so much volume on the site. If your site doesn't have as much traffic as Amazon does, which I don't know who does, then you need to give tests to breathe and either prove themselves or disprove themselves. So that's quite important as well. One of the most important things is that the brand embraces the mindset, and that's at all levels and at sort of as senior level as we can. Some things work, some things don't. It's about, I mentioned earlier, it's about the journey, and as long as we're going forward and we can see, yes, that's increased the conversion rate, that's not, because we're testing at quite a small niche level, you can really see what is and isn't working, and then you start to build on the marginal gains and you benefit from the compound interest. So you might have done something over here that increased the conversion rate by 2%. A very small percentage. But if you keep adding things like that on there, and it will plateau at some point, but you'll start getting that compound interest and seeing the growth over time.
Nice. Because anyway, any marketing strategy that you are implementing from an organic point of view or paid time, you have to understand your target audience in such that maybe someone who's a 50-year would purchase a thing, whereas a person who's a 20-year-old, you thought that this is your target audience, that will be.
One of my favorite things to do, run my own little tests with my wife or my mum or other people I know, and you just say, can you? I did it yesterday with my wife. I said, go on this website. Why wouldn't you buy from there? And you get sort of, because she's not in e-commerce, she does something completely differently. So I think we're in our own heads a lot sometimes as well as marketeers and creatives. We think sometimes in our own heads, whereas actually we're not always the consumer. Again, it comes down to simple marketing principles: know and understand your audience and understand people.
That's so true, because you have to understand your customers better and build your entire strategy accordingly. So the next question that I'm gonna ask is a follow-up. How important is understanding user behavior and psychology in optimizing conversion rates? And what are some of the effective methods for gathering and analyzing this data? Any tools, tactics that you can share?
Yeah, I've never needed a level in psychology more than when looking at understanding people, because it is massively important. We are dealing with, and you have to, we have a hypothesis and then we have a result from what comes of it. So, we will always look at a hypothesis from almost a psychological point of view. So if we show free delivery at the checkout level, then we think conversion rate will go up. And then it's our job to test that hypothesis. So it's actually quite a scientific psychological process, which isn't always understood. And, we will either prove or disprove that theory. And then it's obviously in the implementing it as well. But for me, one of the best tools, which is completely free, so anybody who's listening to this can actually just implement it on the site. It's Microsoft Clarity, which is a heat mapping tool. It's free, easy to set up, and it provides real-time recordings of user experiences. So it shows you the screen as that person is looking at it. And that can be on a granular level for each user, which is really insightful. I can spend hours looking over these recordings of people's scrolling through a site and looking at these, and you can see the mouse clicks and where they're hovering. And what the software does after that as well is it uses AI to pull it all together, and you get heat maps and scroll maps from the site. So you start seeing what percentage of people have actually got to the footer on the site. And is it worth a 3-hour conversation about what we're going to put in the footer? It's those kind of things where you think, right, well, this is what's happening. You can also see rage clicks on there where people just clicking through and nothing's happening.
Yeah.
So that is a really useful tool, not just for e-com sites, but for any site that's looking at conversions. If you're wanting to get lead generation from a site, review your site in there and have a look at.
Any other tools that you want to share?
So many. So there's a great tool that I've used before, which is just a tech tool called SalesFire. So that implements some of the key features that we would include in the strategy. So advanced search has some really clever cross-selling functionality in there where it brings in data from Amazon's log and their related products, and then links it to your products on your site and their related products. So it doesn't have to be linked to Amazon, but it's using their thinking to deliver better results for a customer on a site. Because I've worked with sites before where they have a level of cross-selling functionality, but it's not very intuitive, or it's not quite right. So you might be looking at a blue dress, for example, and it might show you another blue dress, or something like that, which is good in certain instances. But then the CRO mind in me is thinking, well, actually, could we show a matching jacket? Could we show a matching handbag? Could we show a pair of shoes that might go with that dress? So then you start thinking about merchandising and getting into everything in there. I stress this to clients all the time. Think about the e-com store in the same way that you would think about a bricks and mortar store, which is where the experience I had at the very start of my career in a high street clothing store, where we were building out the PX, working closely with the store managers. That all comes into it, and it all ties in, carrying it through to the online experience.
Yeah, amazing. I think this is one of the niche insights so far, because personalization is one aspect. Building over the top of your personalized approach and making sure that your retargeting is also created in such a way so that your customer is engaged enough to a level that the person not only buys one particular product, but engaged to buy more as well.
One thing that we also do as well is we work really closely with the paid media teams to make sure that whatever is being promoted is then reflected on the landing pages. So if we're saying 100% cotton and a sustainable brand, or whatever it might be, I don't even know if cotton is sustainable, but anyway, if we're promoting a 100% sustainable green brand on an ad, and that's not reflected on the landing page, there's a disconnect there, and there's a level of discomfort. Whereas if we're all singing from the same hymn sheet and the same features are funneled through, then the customer experience is always going to be far better.
I totally agree with you. All right, I have another question for you. So you have spoken a lot about how CRO can be a game changer. Can you share some case studies or success stories where implementing CRO technique resulted in significant improvement in conversion rates and subscriber growth?
Yeah, so we worked with a toys and games retailer last year. We saw that was a site rebuild and then CRO services afterwards. From that, we saw an increase of 301% in online sales. Conversion rates were up 35%, and average order values were also up 10%. This month, we've just implemented quite a few changes on an FM brand, and their conversion rate is up 96% already, which is crazy numbers. It's not, I mean, they're the shiny stats that I love to share. Obviously, the reality is, we are, and it depends at the point that we're starting from, and the industry averages, some of those were below industry average. In fact, it was above industry average already, which is great. But it's about marginal gains. It's about constantly improving and making that consistency, and making CRO part of the overall marketing strategy to make those improvements that just stack up over time.
Yeah, indeed. So since we have spoken a lot around the sales end of it, let's talk about the website designing as well. When it comes to website design, what are some of the best practices for creating a user-friendly experience that encourages visitors to take an action? How do you make sure that the CTAs are on the right aspect, or is there a hack around it?
Is there a hack to good design? I mean, the thing for me is the first thing we do is it's got to be mobile first. If we're not looking mobile in before, when the vast majority majority of traffic is now coming from mobile. I think I read a stat the other day, there's percent of traffic in some sectors is coming from mobile. Especially if your marketing channels are social media, then instantly, we're looking at massive traffic from a mobile device. If somebody lands on your site and it's not mobile optimized, then or mobile first in the thinking, then we're fighting a losing battle straight away. So that means, making sure that if you've got, and again, this is where some of the road tactics are fantastic, but you've got to make sure they're implemented right. So if you've got a chatbot on your site, but you've also got something else that's popping up or a sticky add to cart at the bottom of the screen, and they're overlaying from each other, then that creates an instant conflict in where are we supposed to be, where are we clicking, what's going on there. So mobile first has to be sort of the number one thing for us. Other than that, it's just making sure that brand message is really clear, thinking about the users first, clear call to action. You should never be more than one scroll away from an add to cart button is typically what I do. I've done a few tests before with the sticky add to carts at the bottom of the screen, which work really well, because if somebody's scrolling down the page and they're looking at the features, the add to cart is always on and it's always there. That's where you have to look at conflicts with chat widgets and things like that as well, making sure that we're giving the right things in the right places. And most importantly is consistency and familiarity. Understand the market, understand your competitors, understand what people want to see on a site and what they expect to see. I do believe a lot in not reinventing the wheel. If something works really well, it will always really well. There's a reason why Amazon do things. There's a reason why all the big players in any given industry do things a certain way, and there's a lot of testing and A/B testing and research that have gone into those things, and a lot of money that's been spent for them to get to that point. So stand on the shoulders of giants. That's what I say.
Amazing. People forget that there are competitors in every space.
Everywhere,
So just consider them as your direct customers, the direct, competitors or competitors, but analyze them every now and then and understand what's happening and how you can actually utilize that bit and piece into what you are right now and a better presence for your customers.
I think as well, sorry to interject, but I think the joy of working with an agency as well is that they are also working with other brands, and they may even be in different sectors, but they see what's working on different brands, and you can borrow from one sector to another. You can borrow from one company to another. The ideology that works in one, chances are, we're still selling to people, whether it's D2C or B2B, it's all people buying from people. So it's, the principles are the same a lot of the time.
That's so true.
Communicate with people on a human to human level. And we, as marketers, again, we always get hung up in demographics and all, everything in generalizations, but we need to remember that the basics of what we're doing, which is communicating with people.
And in fact, it's not always about data. It's about going and talking to the people, what exactly you can analyze it based on it. So since you spoke about A/B testing earlier as well, let's talk a bit about how do you approach A/B testing and experimentation in CRO.
So, experimentation is key and is really important to CRO, and A/B testing is a really great way to get to that. What I would say is there's sort of two things that are always worth considering. Be as specific as you possibly can be with a change. So don't change 10 things on a product page. Change one at a time. Change one thing at a time. It's the color of the add to cart button. Because we've got a hypothesis where we think, that color is going to work better than the existing one. Test that. And then you can see, did that work? Did that not work? Yes, no, right, brilliant. Next. Follow the strategy, find out what we're testing next. Why are we testing it next? And then the other thing I would say as well is timing. So again, give tests time to breathe. Give tests time to work. Be sensible with it. If something's seeing a massive drop off, then maybe put it back quickly. If it's and then give it time based on the audience, the size of the audience that we're reaching.
No, that's so true. It's not a sudden change that you should keep on going. You have to trust your instincts as well at times.
I was speaking to someone the other day about it, and it's evolution, not revolution. When we're dealing with something that's already a good foundation, we've got a good footing, we've pulled the big levers, we know that the foundations are solid. It's about evolving in little ways, constantly evolving, figuring out those wins.
So true. Now we have come to the end of this cast. I think it's too soon, to be honest.
I could talk about this for hours.
You spoke about a lot of things which are relevant to other industries as well.
Yeah.
And I'm sure listeners would learn a lot from your experience and things that you have done, and now you have become a pro to doing it. All right, there's a final question for you. What advice
Okay.
would you give to businesses looking to improve their CRO efforts and turn more casual visitors into loyal subscribers, like we discussed?
I'd install the heat mapping tool I mentioned, install Microsoft Clarity on the site. I just find it fascinating to watch people scrolling through a website, but also the data you get out of that is really, really useful. And run some sort of a CRO audit. We have one that covers steps that we go through with a brand at first. I do have a list actually, which viewers, listeners can reach out to myself or to you, Tamanna. But I have a list of around about 20 really key points that we can just check off straight away. And if we're, and it covers things like speed, it covers the tools being installed that we spoke about, it covers social proof. It just ticks off sort of the most important and steps that we can take to start improving CRO. The thing the best thing to do with CRO is something. Do something that we think will improve that conversion rate.
Yeah, awesome. I think there's a giveaway, guys. Please.
It's a giveaway.
So feel free to add your email addresses on the comment sections, and we will be more than happy to pass it on to you guys. And even if you want to have a conversation with me or Chris, you can reach out to us on LinkedIn. Alright? So as we wrap up this enlightening episode with Chris, it's clear that mastering CRO isn't just about optimizing websites. It's about understanding human behavior, creating compelling experiences, and nurturing relationship with your audience. From turning casual visitors into loyal customers, subscribers, to empowering businesses to thrive in digital landscape, Chris has shared invaluable insights and strategies to drive sustainable growth. Listeners, I hope you have been inspired to stay on the top of your marketing game. And thank you once again, Chris, for coming on the show and being a part of this episode as well. All stay tuned for more discussions on the BD show as we explore the interaction of humanity and marketing. And don't forget to catch your favorite BD show on your preferred audio platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and a lot more. We are also available on YouTube, so make sure that you hit a subscribe button and tell us in the comments below what is the next thing that you really want us to cover. From all of us at Brand Talkies, stay inspired. Sayonara.